Hi and welcome back to my channel. In today's video you have my July TBR. Full disclosure, I am filming this in the second week of June. However, I'm about to leave the country for a week and a half, close to 2 weeks, and when I get back, I doubt that I will feel like filming my TBR for the next month. And I have most of the books here. Now, again, another disclosure point, I just had my eye doctor appointment this morning, so if my eyes are still a bit dilated, that explains that. Okay, so far in June, haven't gotten through much of the month. I've been having a fairly good reading month. I've been getting through the books that I don't have audiobooks of or the ebook versions. I don't know yet whether or not I have ticked off every box because obviously 2.5 weeks more to go in the month. And that brings us to July. So I don't know if there are any readathons this month. There are less readathons, I think, this year than last year. I know for sure the one that I did in June last year is not running. I don't think that content creator is making videos anymore. And the one that I did in July, it was a first year for that one, but that content creator is now in law school and hasn't been putting out videos regularly. So since I don't have any readathons to prepare for, and I have a fairly good plan on my own, I'm going to go ahead and tell you how I will be structuring this TBR. And I just realized as I'm filming that I forgot to put on a book from my oldest TBR, clearing off the oldest books on my TBR. I don't have any holds available at the library right now because several books that I have on my list for my SCASL project, they have not come in yet at the time of filming. So I may have to re-put them on hold depending on when they come in, because obviously I won't be able to pick them up from the library when I'm not in the country. So I need to put on one of those. More than likely, it will probably be, I think, Nightingales, which is a story of Florence Nightingale, or the other Sandra Day O'Connor, which might actually be her talking about her time on the Supreme Court, which the other two that I've read by her were not. That being said, I also have 10 books on hold, physically on hold at the library, which are the next 10 books that I need in my SCASL project. I'm having to read more of them at once than I planned, like I've always done. We shall see. I might actually extend the SCASL project into later months. So I don't have any of those. I don't have a list in front of me of those. It's going to be 10 books that are on the SCASL list. And I will, if I remember, link that in the description down below. The ones that I do have here are my list books. They are my Buzzwordathon 23 and 23 and series to start, and then my book box books. So without further ado, let's get at it. The first of those books is my Buzzwordathon book, and for July, the buzzword is, I think, weather related. And so for that one, I'm choosing Stealing Thunder by Elena Boyden. I think I got the second book in the series, my Coffee and Book Club subscription, which I don't have anymore, but this is definitely, I think, now that I'm looking at it, I need to make sure that this is the first book in the series. Okay, so this was published in 2020. Okay, found the book. Quick double check. This is the first book in the series. So this is my Buzzwordathon book. Now, I'm going to go to my 23 and 23, and I have to admit that in June, one of my 23 and 23 books that I read, I realized I should not have put on the list in the first place because I read it back in 2020. So technically, should I put another book on that list? Yes, but that was a problem from past me. So I guess I read 22 new books in 23, but I started that book. More on that in my wrap up for June. But let's get to the actual 23 and 23 books. So I still am moving forward on nonfiction, and I do have 2 books here that count for that. One of those is Schoolhouse Burning by Derek W. Black. This is Public Education and the Assault on American Democracy. I think this is going to be extremely timely. And then, because I still have 2 very large books on my 23 and 23 list, wasn't going to put both of them on the list. That would just be asking for it. The biggest on my 23 and 23 list is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. This book is over 800 pages. So that's 23 and 23. Now, as far as series starters, I couldn't decide which one, and so I did Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Moe, and it landed on The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. And this is the Lycanius trilogy, and Jade from JD Reads, who my fantasy taste pretty much identically, really likes this series, so I'm excited to start this one. Next we come to the other goal, and that is completing series. And as I mentioned, I realized that by reading through my BookBox books, I'm going to be starting a lot of series. So instead of putting just one book on my TBR for finishing series, I put enough books on there to finish or catch up with 4 different series. Now, the first of those, there are 3 of them, but they're very short and they're by an author that I really like. And that is the Track series by Jason Reynolds. I've read the first one, Track. And so I have Patina, Lou, and Sunny. These are all named after other members of that track club. I think that's the order of them. If not, I will read them in order. Next we have Deathless Divide by Justina Ireland. I have to say, if after reading this book, I give this book 5 stars, that will be 3 5-star books from her in 1 year. I don't think an author has ever done that before. We shall see. Then one that I cannot believe that so many months went by without me putting on my list. Finishing off the Tristan Strong series, Tristan Strong Keeps Punching. And in something that might be a little bit dangerous for me, I got auto-approved by the Disney Publishing Group on NetGalley. You know, all the ones that the Rick Riordan presents. And then lastly, I don't know if there's going to be more in this series or not, or if it's just a duology, but I have the second book in the series, Kiki Kalira Conquers a Curse by Sangu Mandana. I really loved the first one, so I'm looking forward to getting caught up with this one. If I can get caught up with my NetGalley arcs, I'm going to focus on series in the second half of the year. Now we get to the BookBox books. So, obviously in this video, I'm not taking a lot of time to go over what these books are about. I'm going to save that either for the unboxing that they were in or for my wrap up. So for the first of them, Fairy Loot adult books, they've been half and half, fantasy romance and not fantasy romance. And this is one of the ones that is not fantasy romance, so it ups its chances a little bit. And that is In the Labs of Puppets by TJ Klune. I read House on the Cerulean Sea and loved it. I have not read Under the Whispering Door or any of his other books, but hopefully this one is good. I love the reworked cover and the sprayed edges, obviously. Next we have Thieves by Lucy Byron. I think technically this was part of the adult subscription. I don't think I switched it out, but it's so close to the kids for me that I'm going to consider it part of my comics subscription. Then we have the one book from one of the TBR boxes that I got that I actually hadn't read before. That was the box of the 2 repeats, and that is Rise. This is a pop history of Asian America. It had a little sleeve that went around that part of it that had the name on it. Here is the title page. I'm really intrigued about this one. This is a hefty book, but periodically throughout, it has some graphic versions, and obviously it has text, so I'm really intrigued by this one. And that is the second of the 2 minimum nonfiction books that I want to get on my TBR. Next we have one that I'm a little nervous about because, again, sci-fi is not necessarily my thing, and this is my Goldsboro book for the month, and that is A.G. Riddle's Lost in Time. I've heard good things about A.G. Riddle, and this, of the 2, I haven't read the other one yet, sci-fi books that I've gotten from Goldsboro thus far, is one that interests me more. Then we have my Illumicrate book, and that is The Whispering Dark. I think I did end up with another duplicate of this one from Owlcrate, but it wasn't an active subscription. It's one where I got the box for all the other items, and obviously I prefer this one more. And the thing that intrigues me about this one is that it's a deaf protagonist. I think that's the one. Yes, so I'm really intrigued about that. So I just opened up the next one to remember which subscription this came from. I don't know if you can see that little creepy thing right there. So I believe this is Fairy Loot. Yes, this is Fairy Loot. This is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I've heard things on both sides for this one, but that's my Fairy Loot young adult choice. Then we come to my Aardvark subscription. I don't know, again, if you saw installment number 1, if I'm going to keep this subscription, but for that one, because I'm still actively subscribed, even if I haven't gotten a book in a couple months, and that is Ithaca by Claire North. Second to last, we have my Caffeine and Legends subscription, and that is The Sword Defiant. This is the one that I meant to skip, but didn't. Technically, this one counts as Inkstone as well, but Inkstone is a quarterly subscription, and because there was a duplicate, I'm not going to start including Inkstone until a little bit later. And lastly, we have my Book of the Month subscription, and again, because I have so many Book of the Month books, once I get caught up on my arcs, I'm going to include more Book of the Month books in my monthly evaluation, and that is Hester by Lori Lico Albanese. I believe this is a retelling or a play on the Scarlet Letter. I think Hester is serving as like inspiration or something like that. So this sounds really intriguing. Also, obviously, as I mentioned a few times, I'm going to include as many arcs as I can get to. I'm going to pop up a graphic here that hopefully I will have updated and edited as of towards the end of June to see which ones I have still to get to. And that is the massive list that I have on my July TBR, which is my last month of vacation. We're not going to talk about that because at the time of filming it's still the start of vacation. So here you go. That wraps up all the books that almost all of the books that I hope to read during the month of July. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.